Hello and welcome back to Coding with Mondo. In this two-part video series, we are going to build a basic website using HTML and CSS. For part 1, we are going to focus on what is HTML, why is it still relevant today to learn HTML and CSS. We will learn how to set up our editor and folder structure for our website, and we will create some boilerplate. The goal by the end of this video is for us to have our project ready for part 2, where we can focus on styling our web page to look like our mockup and have some resources where we can continue to learn more about HTML. Now moving on to a mockup, this is a example blog post. This is the mockup that we will go over in this video. For those wondering what tool I use to build this design, I use Figma. Figma is a web-based graphics editing tool that allows you to do quick wireframes and prototypes of mobile, web, desktop apps. Some people even use this tool to build social media content such as Instagram posts, Snapchat filters, Twitter and YouTube headers. I wanted to design something where we can focus on basic understanding of HTML and CSS. Learn more about the fundamentals without having to do such a huge deep dive on both subjects. I want you to learn enough and have something to show by the end of this video. With more practice, you will be ready to make more elaborate and complex website. Now, moving on, why even learn HTML CSS today? I think and I believe that understanding HTML and CSS can help anyone who works with the web, designers who want to create more attractive and usable sites, website content editors that want to create even way better content, marketers that want to communicate with their audience more effectively. Ultimately, I believe is a great introduction to programming and web development. So you might be asking, what is HTML? Well, HTML is short for Hypertext Markup Language. It defines the structure of your website content. It consists of series of elements where you can enclose. HTML pages are essentially text documents for the web. We can use things like headings, paragraphs, divisions, links, images, and countless of other tags. For the remainder of this video, I might be referring tags and elements interchangeably because tags are often referred as to elements. Also, just a fair warning, there are hundreds of tags, but ultimately, you don't need to memorize them. All you need to know is what tags are available for you to use, what they do, and where they go. I will also be including this link on the description below so that you can look into this, read it, understand it. There's a lot of great information here, and it does a really deep dive on the subject. Now, if you want to follow along, you're going to need a text editor. And the one I recommend right now is Visual Studio Code. It's really great for beginners. It has everything you need. It also works on Macs, Windows, and Linux machines. So go ahead and download this video, and once you're done, we will continue. Alright, so hopefully you downloaded the Visual Studio Code editor and we are ready to start our project. So the first thing you want to do is open up your Visual Studio Code. In this case, I already have it open. You're going to click on this double, file explorer here. And we're going to open up a folder. Since you might not have a folder, we are going to create a new folder and name it Blog Post 2021. And click Open. Blog Post 2021 will be our project folder where we will include our HTML, our future styling, and any assets we might need. So click on New File, and here we will create we could click on File. Actually, you could just press Command S and name it index HTML. And this refers to the root of our project or our website. All right, so now we want to start with a boilerplate. And a boilerplate is important to have a boilerplate because it's a good starting foundation. The boilerplate is and how we create a basic template to use in our project. So if we go back to our link here and we scroll down to, let's see, Introduction to HTML, Getting Started with HTML. This has some prerequisites. As you know, basic software installed, which is our text editor. It has another great introduction of what is HTML. And we are going to scroll down all the way down to anatomy of a HTML document. So we're going to copy this here and go back to our editor and paste it. Once we're ready, we want to open this by clicking on copy path, go back to our browser and paste that path. And congratulations, you have your first website. Of course, all this says is this is my page. But if you want to inspect, you could right click and click on inspect, and you'll be able to see all the elements that you have on this website. And this should look familiar. This is what we copied and paste into our editor. And the great thing about this is you could go to any website, click on inspect, and see how people are building their website or how companies are building websites. You'll see all these elements, and right now they all seem very unfamiliar, and I'll go over them in a few. Let's go back to our test page and go over on what some of these elements represent. So now, if we go back here, we have this doc type HTML. Doc type HTML was meant to act as links to a set of rules of HTML pages had to follow. These days, it's more of a historical artifact that needs to be included to make sure that everything works right. If we move on to HTML, HTML element represents the root of the HTML document. This wraps all our content of the page, and then we have head. The head element acts as a container for everything you want to include on the HTML page, such as your CSS, maybe some JavaScript, maybe some fonts. Okay, so moving on, we have title. Title, this sets the title of the page, which is what appears on the browser tab when your page is loaded. So if we change this to blog post 2021 and save it, if we go back to our browser and refresh this page, you'll notice that now it says blog post 2021. So you could change this to anything, and it will appear up here. All right, and then meta. This element specifies the character for our document. In this case, it needs to be UTF-8. It's like a standard. UTF-8 includes most characters in the human written language. If we move on to body. Body, this contains all the content that displays on the page, including text, images, videos, games, whatever you desire. All right, and then this P element represents a paragraph. That's self-explanatory. All right, so let's delete this and let's go back to our page, and it's empty. Great, and we can close this window here. Now let's go back to our design. Now this design, how can we translate this design into HTML? So with HTML, you should think about everything as boxes or divisions in some sort of way. We have many different divisions here. We have this circle, which we for now we won't be building, but we will set up for our part 2. We have this element here called is an image, so we know that we need to find a way to include images to our HTML. We have this here, which is almost like a header. So we could find a header element we could use for HTML. Here we have some sort of tags, which we could probably use a paragraph. And this is also a paragraph. So we could use a paragraph element on our HTML. And then here we have some sort of call to action or a button that we could also find an element for. So let's go back to our getting started with HTML, and we could actually click back, and we notice that we have an image tag here, we have a paragraph tag here, and we have a division tag here. So for our first thing, let's focus on the circle. So for now, we're going to create, actually, since this is a whole web page, let's create a division called, we're just going to create a division. This will be where our web page will live. And for now, we'll create a comment here. Content of our web page. It's always great to have little comments so that you know what is what, especially when a web page could be really long. So for now, we want this division to represent the content of our web page. And then inside that, we will create another division, and this will represents a circle. Great. So for now, it's going to be empty. If we go back to our page and we refresh and we click on inspect, we will have a body here, content of our web page, and this is a circle. So the great thing about HTML is that you can nest things. And also, to explain a little bit more about this, elements, basically this is an opening tag here, and this is a close tag. The opening tag consists of a name of the element wrapped in an opening and closing angle bracket. So this is opening, this is a closing angle bracket here. The closing tag, this is the name as the opening tag, except that it includes the /, right? So you will always have the name of the element and then an enclosed tag. Inside here would be the content of the element, which is usually text. And you will refer to this whole thing as the opening, closing tag, and the content together comprise the whole element. Also, elements can have attributes such as classes, links, you name it. All right, so now we have the circle and we have our wrapping container. And now we want to move on to maybe this image. All right, so image. How would we create an image? We go back to our here and click on image, and here, the image embed element, this is how you write one. It has some attributes such as the class. Class is something we'll learn on the next video. We have the source. Source is where you want your image to be located. And then alternative is where, let's see, the alt attribute holds the text description of the image. It's not mandatory, but it is useful, especially for accessibilities. Screen readers are able to read this, and it's pretty great. So now that we know how to write this image, let's now create an image here, and we'll name it, the source will be image.jpg for now. Now, image is one of those elements that is a self-enclosed element. If we go to our web page and refresh, we'll notice that the image is broken. Now, I have an image here on my desktop that we could use, and I will also include this image in the description below. So I'm gonna drag this image into our blog post 2021, and actually I'm gonna rename it to image.jpg. Now, if I refresh, this image will show up. It's a really large image, and we will learn how to edit this image for it to show up a little smaller on our website. So for now, let's ignore it, and we will now continue to the next part. Let's see. So now we have this header here. So with header, so HTML has tags to refer to headers, and it defines the most important heading. So for this, in this case, we can have a H1, and then it goes up to H6, and H6 defines the least important heading. So for this case, since this is the most important heading in this whole blog post, we'll make this a H1. Right, so we have H1, and we want to write this down. Okay. If we refresh our page, we need to talk about architecture. It's a game changer. So here, let's add a little space. We could add spacing here, and it should reflect here. There we go. Cool. So moving on, we want to now include these tags here, and for the tags, we'll use a paragraph. It makes it easier. So we'll create a p tag. We save it, and we go back here, and now we have city life architecture. Awesome. Now we have this paragraph. Again, we'll use a paragraph tag, and we'll include a paragraph. Now, if you have, some text editors have text wrapping, and it'll fix this for you. Another thing is you can include all these spaces, and it will still not affect your website. And a good way to check is if you inspect, you could also edit here if you want to. So we could change things here, and it will reflect on your website. But if you refresh, it will always refer to what is written on your document here. Okay, cool. So we're almost done with the skeleton here. Oh, we're missing a button, right? So we have this call to action button. And if we go to our document here and go back to this page, let's see if there's anything with a button. All right, there's nothing here with a button. Let's get started with HTML, and maybe site search buttons, the button element. And this is an example of a button. So as you can see, is written button with the enclosed button. And let's now write button, read more. Cool, so we have a button. Okay, so I think that we have most of our structure ready for styling. So I guess this is the end of part 1. In the next video, we will go over CSS and apply some styling to our current HTML page so that it could look more like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and I'll see you soon for part 2.